Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Jairus Wilkins. We're going to be going through the overview of Elastic. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago and had a prep call. So the first thing we're going to do in our agenda is we're going to review what we discussed on that call, what we thought we heard. We'll go through introductions. Then I'll start by talking through what Elastic is and give you an overview of our product. Then take you through what I like to call the modern landscape and observability evolution path. Then we're going to review the actual products, talk about use case and discussions, and then review your action items. All right. Looks like we're set up. I'm Jairus Wilkins. I've been with Elastic for half a year now. And before that, I've been in this space for about 10 years. And there's a lot of exciting things about Elastic that I want to talk to you about today. So first, we're going to talk about what we heard on the call. We're interested in a general overview of Elastic. You have a current use case around logging, and specifically you're interested in consolidating logs and making your logs searchable. And you were also interested tangentially, or maybe phase two, in looking at logging APM and infrastructure monitoring, and there was some interest in seeing. Does that sound right? And is there anything additional?
Yeah, that sounds right. I'd like to also see machine learning.
Great. All right, we'll throw that in there as a bonus, and we'll hit the rest of those. Okay, so introductions. So if everyone could please go around, just tell us about who you are, what your title is, and what your responsibilities are here. Thank you very much. Great, so let me tell you a little bit about us. Elastic is a search company, and everything we do builds upon that foundation of search. When I say search, though, what do you guys think of? Right, Google. A lot of people will say that, like a search box. But search is so much more than that. Search is so much more than just a text box. Search is everywhere, and it's in so many things that you do, right? Imagine when you look up a restaurant, right? You might use Yelp, and you're searching there. Imagine when you match with an Uber driver. That's a type of search, too. It also involves a lot of geolocation data. But then also, when you want to find the log event of a certain user's session that you know to have failed, you have to search for that as well. There are many different kinds of search. Here are just a couple of use cases that illustrate the breadth of search that applies to Elastic. So, of course, Uber. Everyone here taking an Uber? Yeah? Good. The person in the back there, Uber is a ride-sharing company. Yeah, right. Okay, so everybody's taking Uber. And when you hit that button to find a driver, it's matching you with the current active drivers and geolocating that by zone. And it's complex, but it happens very fast because they're using Elastic in the backend. Activision Blizzard has a game called Overwatch. Any gamers in the audience? Anybody played Overwatch? Great. So they're using it to monitor uptime and monitor performance metrics, and then they can increase or decrease their server load to be able to handle more games, more sessions as needed to keep the quality as high as their expectations are. And then Indiana University is using this for security metrics. They're using it for internal threat hunting, network monitoring, and across-the-board security analytics. So that's three different use cases that you wouldn't immediately think of. Yeah, security, that's all about search. But it goes back to that fundamental of this is what Elastic does, and we've been able to build so many things on top of that foundation that make us that gives a very powerful solution to offer. So it all comes back to that. Search is the constant, and it comes down to speed, scale, and relevance. So it doesn't matter, if you think about the old search engines before Google, you would get tons and tons, millions of hits, right? But it wasn't always relevant, and it wasn't always fast either. So when we say relevance, that's what it means. It means when you search for a red sweater, you don't want everything red and everything that's a sweater. You want just red sweater. And speed, of course, means you better get it there within a second or two, else your user is going to be finding something else to do or someone to buy from. And then scale, it has to not only work when you test it in a small use case, it has to be able to scale to any level. we're distributed by nature and at our foundation, and we scale very well. Our speed, we from the ground up are built for speed and then relevance. We're absolutely focused on delivering only relevant metrics, and that's why we have all kinds of things around matching and fast joins that allow you to get relevant data quickly. So first I want to talk a little bit about observability. So what we often see in the current landscape is something like this, where you have all sorts of different things that have evolved over time, and now you have end up with microservices, containers, Kubernetes managing the containers, serverless architectures, cloud computing. And all this is on top of everything that was there before. So VMs and your monolith architecture is still there as well. So as this stuff has scaled up, monitoring complexity has often multiplied. And what we end up seeing in many cases is this. You have lots and lots of siloed tools. Can you guys give me some examples of some of these types of tools that you have within your own organization? Great. Yeah, absolutely. If you could take those down, that's good stuff to know. Yeah, so you end up with this. You end up with a whole lot of different ways to look at the problem, and you have to go to all these different places to really resolve anything. And then you can end up with your screen looking like this. All right, does this ring a bell with anyone? Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but in past life, I was security and network engineer. And I would get calls sometimes in the middle of the night saying, this service is down, or we're submitting these budget entries and they're not going in. We got to be done by 8 a.m. Right? And you end up getting pulled out of bed, you end up on a call or in a war room for a couple of hours, and then, 5 pizzas later, you might have solved the problem, and now you're about to have a miserable day the next day. Or your family's mad at you, right? Because you stayed up all night and now you don't want to go anywhere Saturday. So we want to simplify this from having to go to many places to solve a problem to being able to go to one place. And I know that you guys are interested mostly in logging today, but I think it's really important to start with this discussion because it's so important to realize that this applies not just to logging, but to everything that may come after that or everything you may use in conjunction with that. And I like to use this illustration of a basketball game to kind of talk through that concept. So if you think about a basketball game, any basketball fans here, by the way? A couple, great. So I want you to think about the referee versus the coach. So a lot of organizations now are operating kind of like how the referee acts in a basketball game, in that they're responding, right? They're responding to what's happening, but they're not really having any influence over what's happening. They're just kind of doing break fix and trying to keep things going. So that's what the referee does, right? He's not too concerned about how much playtime people get or who's on the court. He's concerned with responding to what's happening. Versus the coach. So the coach can look at a very big picture. He can see what's happening in real time. He knows what's happened in the past. He can then influence what's happening in real time. He can call a play. He can call a timeout. He can substitute a player. Not only that, but he can influence the medium term as well, right? At halftime, he can change the complete defensive strategy and also call a completely different playbook in the second half and have a different outcome. And in the long term, the coach can think about different recruiting strategies or have a completely different playbook that they can use that can influence all sorts of things. Not only that, but the coach can be concerned about budget. He can influence outcomes by hiring assistants. There are many, many ways where that coach can not only look at what's happening and respond, but make changes that will influence the future for the better. And that's where we want people in this field to evolve. We want you to go from reacting like a referee to observing like a coach. We want you to be able to not only just react to what's happening, but influence the future to have less problems and to improve those outcomes such that you have less things to respond to that are negative in nature. So that's what Elastic does. We allow you to come to one place, our portal, our Kibana portal, and look at it like a single pane of glass that can bring in so many different things, all the different types of data that you'd need to really resolve a problem, or even to research a problem that happened in the past and try and prevent it from happening again. The Elastic Stack lets you simplify all these different complexities by having one place through which to consume and monitor these functions. It allows you to maximize your ROI as well. Many of those tools are going to be paid tools. And many of the people that use them are going to have specialized skill. Whereas when you use the Elastic Stack, you're able to use a common skill set over many different tools, thus making training less expensive and making it easier for more people to do cross-function work. All right, so now let's talk about the actual product itself, the physical stack. You may have heard of ELK, right? But we've moved beyond that now, and we really just think of this as 3 layers. So the top layer there, that's Kibana. That's the consumption layer where you visualize and manage your data. That's where all the solutions that we have are served in one place. But it's also where you manage your customer or manage your cluster, and it's also where you visualize your data. So it's kind of a new age thing where you're not having to go to one place for administration and another place for visualization and another place further for development. You're able to do it all in one place. The middle tier is your storage layer. That's Elasticsearch. Everything's stored there and everything's retrieved from there. Then your lowest layer is the ingest layer. We have 2 things that you see there, the beats and Logstash. Now beats are very interesting because they're a little different than how many people in the industry do this. Beats are a lightweight data shipper that sit directly on the data generator and can write data directly into Elasticsearch. They're very lightweight and it's very simple to set them up. Logstash is kind of a dotted line there, where if you need something enriched or if you need to do further work on that data or transformations of some kind, you would flow it through Logstash. We're also open source at our core. So Elastic has an open source base, and that's important because there are thousands of people in the world who are contributing to that product at all time. And the more eyes you have on a problem, the better it ends up being. We're proud of that because it allows us to have stronger code base at our core. There are many, many contributors. So these are some of our beats, right? File beat, metric beat, packet beat, WinLog beat, audit beat, heartbeat, function beat. They work for different things, but they're really cool because let's talk specifically about log beat. We have over 50 different modules based on specific log types that will make you have out-of-the-box dashboard functionality in Kibana, where once you've set up that data ingest using FileBeat, you'll then have an automatic module that is available in Kibana to show you a dashboard which should be relevant to that user. It's a default dashboard, but it's tuned for that log type. This is one of the many ways that we allow you to get up and running very quickly, to the point where you can actually set up a real environment, load something in using the FileBeat beat, and then go over it within 5 minutes and see that visualized in Kibana. This is Kibana. This is a view of Kibana that's showing you many of the different visualizations that are available. So imagine this might be a little bit of a hodgepodge for a dashboard, but the idea there is that we're showing you many of the different types of visualizations that you can create. Kibana not only is used for visualization, but also all of the other solutions. And you can see that here on the left, you would select between them to change functions. And then also, this is where you would create the visualizations. And thirdly, where you would manage the cluster itself. So logging. Now you guys had specifically mentioned that you're interested in consolidated logging. So once you've logged or loaded all of your sources into Elasticsearch, then you'll be able to come to the logging portal and be able to query all those logs from one place. So we can zoom in on this later and do a demo on logging. Let me know if that's interesting. But this is where you go to the text box and type certain things in. So this is, we've already passed a container name in here and we're looking at a specific log, and these are the details. Each of these values here has a tag that you can then pass back to further filter your query. So you're able to search your logs here, and you're also able to look at them in a consolidated view. All of your logs are there and it's very fast. How does this compare to the logging tools you're using now? Right, so this should be a significant improvement. Does that answer your questions around searching your logs and also having a consolidated view? Okay. All right, infrastructure metrics. This is a view of infrastructure metrics, and this one's really straightforward, right? You can look at that and get an idea of what you're looking at. These are Kubernetes pods, and we're looking at them, and there's color coding by performance, The metric here is outbound traffic. So we see that certain ones are having an issue. Those are pods I would look into. And you'll be able to click through and see the relevant logs and metrics that you would need to resolve those issues or at least research them. APM. So when you combine those metrics and those logs and distributed tracing, you get the APM solution. Once you flow your application data in as well, you can then look at it in a distributed manner such as this, where you're able to see the different layers of your stack. So here, we're looking at 3 different layers. The blue layer is RUM, and then we have the green layer is Python, and then the purple layer is Node. And you see how those are overlaid to represent the entire timeline of the transaction. But then you can zoom in and look at each step along the way to try and determine a root cause. And once you get there, you'll be able to see line numbers. So if there's a specific problem, say in this search query, we would be able to see the line number where there was an issue and go resolve that very quickly. This gets back to that idea of observability, where you're able to have a complete view. That's not just about the play that's being played, but the team, the people on your roster, the different tools that you can bring into play to solve an issue, and being able to get to them very quickly by having these at the click of a button to go straight from this transaction to the back to the actual log, and then a tie back to the SQL query that was called. Then security analytics. This is one of our newest subject areas that's been formalized, and it's very exciting. I'm happy to go into further depth with you. We're having many of our customers that are having great success in deploying this to monitor both their network, internal and external security. Again, as you add this data in on top of your other data, it becomes more and more enriched to the point where you can very quickly resolve security issues and have a robust research opportunity because you have so many different sources involved. That way you can not only tell you have a problem on your network, but follow that user across all services. So another cool thing in Kibana is Canvas. So Canvas, what is it? Canvas is basically live infographics. So imagine like the USA Today infographic, right? We're all familiar with that. What you're seeing here is an actual infographic or Kibana Canvas page that is rendered in the London airport. And this is showing us the current wait times in different security lines, such that when a customer comes up and gets their ticket and then moves towards security, they can review this screen on the wall and make a decision intelligently about which security line they want to use. And it's replicated with real-time data. In reality, these numbers wouldn't be jumping around quite this much, quite so quickly. But this gives you an idea of how powerful it is when you can see your data real-time in a visual fashion that's impactful. So this builds upon the visualizations that are already in Kibana. A dashboard is great for drilling in and seeing further information, but this is good for putting on the wall for quick review and quick decision making. And then lastly, you had mentioned one more thing that wasn't in our agenda was that you wanted to see machine learning. This is an example of our machine learning. So here we have a single time series that we're analyzing. And what you see here, this point is current time, right? And the yellow to the right is future. What's happened is we've analyzed this data, these metrics, and determined that there are 2 anomalies involved, right? There's a red one and a yellow. And if you dig in, you'll be able to see why. And the way we determine anomalies is based on establishing a norm and then standard deviations off of that norm. There's different thresholds based on the number of standard deviations, and this can be customized to a degree. But the idea is that you don't have to go in and set and maintain thresholds. The thresholds are live. And once you have at least a month of data, Elastic is able to look at that and establish that baseline from which it can determine anomalies. This can be used to find historical anomalies, and it also can continue to run in real time to let you know when there's an anomaly happening now. And even more so, it can be used to forecast into the future. This is important because this is the place where you can have the most impact. When you can forecast what's going to happen in the future, you can take decisions today that will make for a better tomorrow, right? You can look at storage utilization and then forecast when it's going to run out and then make changes or prevent that from happening. You can put something on the schedule for some upgrades or additional storage to be added. This could also be used to predict inventory, to understand seasonality of inventory and perhaps prevent stockouts. There are many use cases this can be applied to where knowing more about the future, or at least having good estimates of the future, can allow you to use that observability framework and have that impact on that future that makes things better and makes your job easier. So lastly, consumption of Elastic. I like to think about this by explaining an example of making a dinner. So there's 3 ways you can consume Elastic, and there's 3 ways you can make a dinner. One is you can make it from scratch, right? Where you go to the store, you get all the ingredients, you chop them up, you do all your prep work, you create a sauce, and then you cook the whole thing. It's quite labor intensive. That's like our self-managed on-premise solution, where you're responsible for everything. The second one would be ECE, which is similar to Blue Apron. Blue Apron is a service. Has anyone used that? Right. It's a service that sends you a ready-made meal. It's already prepared. All you do is put it in the oven, and it comes out great, and you look like a really awesome chef without doing very much work. ECE takes our automation framework from the cloud and allows you to use that on-premise with your own hardware. It greatly simplifies the administration and creation of clusters by allowing you to do it with one click, and then one-click upgrades, and very easy administration. Lastly is our Elastic Cloud, or ESS as we call it. This is like going to a restaurant and sitting down and having a wonderful meal. Everything's managed for you, both the infrastructure and the administration, and you're able to use sliders to grow and shrink your cluster as needed. And you're able to do all the functionalities that you can do in the other 2, but without having to worry about any hardware, any bare metal. All right, so I wanted to walk through this and make sure we covered everything. I know we talked about the logging use cases, but I want to make sure you guys got everything you wanted. So did we go through logging and talk about consolidated logs? You already told me yes. APM, infrastructure and SIEM. How did you feel about what you saw? Good. Great. So next steps, what are our next steps? Would you like to have a follow-up where we go into more depth? Great. Yeah, definitely on that logging use case, I'd be happy to work with you on a demo. And we can definitely move forward. I suggest that you start with a trial. You can go today to elastic.co and start your own cloud trial. It's just cloud.elastic.co. And you can start that today. You get a 2-week trial, and it's completely free of charge, and you can start using these features. In the meantime, I'll have my salesperson get with you, and we'll schedule some time to do that demo so that you can see an in-depth overview of logging. Thank you.